So you're Blues captain Ryan O'Reilly, and you want a haircut that's as custom as your stick curve. At Great Clips, we save your haircut details in clip notes, so you get your signature look every time. We got you, and you got this. Great Clips, official hair salon of the NHL.
Joining us now is the former president, general manager of the Vancouver Canucks. Are you at the Victoria Golf Club? It's Mike Gillis here with Sekeres and Price. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good, Matt, and you? I'm looking out the window at it right now.
Yeah.
Looks nice.
We wanted to get you on this week, Mike. Obviously, the 3 Hall of Famers from the Vancouver Canucks and a team that you managed at one point, and Hank and Danny and Roberto. Can you give us your reaction to the news on Monday when you heard all 3 of them would be going in as first ballot Hall of Famers?
Really pleased. I think all 3 of them deserve it, and to be recognized the first time around is really exceptional, but they deserve it.
Did you think when you were running that team that the 3 of them would all one day be in the Hall of Fame?
I did. I think the seasons that where we had them there, they were everything you could ask for in a professional player. They were dedicated. They were leaders. They were exceptional players. They won major awards. They 2 of them were the captain of the team, and the other was an assistant. They were just exceptional in every regard. So I'm not surprised that they've been recognized that way.
When you guys inherited the Twins, they were very, very good players, but they took the next step up. What did you identify that got them to that next step where they were winning league player awards?
I think that there were a number of things. I don't know if you guys were, I'm sure you 2 recall because you were there, but there were a lot of people that were openly vocal about the Twins and and very opinionated about what they were. There was regular character assassinations, and when we arrived, I wanted to change the style of play of the team that I thought would be really beneficial to those guys. And when we began to move the team in that direction with better defensemen who could move the puck and giving them offensive zone starts and all of the stuff that we were doing, we thought they could elevate their game, and they certainly took hold of it and did just that. So, we went from a point where there was a lot of criticism about those guys being 80-point players and we'll never win with them, to them just being in a position where they could elevate their game. And they worked so hard that, given the opportunity and a change in how we wanted to play, I think was really beneficial for them. And to their credit, they grabbed it and they did everything they possibly could with it.
We spent so much time analyzing the culture side of the game. What does it do for the locker room and the organization as a whole when your 2 best players, Daniel and Henrik, are also your 2 hardest working players?
Well, they dragged other people along, but we had a really strong group of players when it came to willingness to work and willingness to try new things. So, if those 2 guys weren't going to come along for that ride, it would have been really a real big problem. But, they were, and we had to prove ourselves to them as well, that we were going to spend money wisely outside of the cap, that we were going to add players that we thought would be instrumental in making everyone better. And, it just worked out really well. And, they were everything that we had hoped they would be, inside the locker room, outside the locker room, in the community, as you guys very well know, and certainly on the ice.
Mike, did you ever get a chance to get to know the extended family, the parents, the siblings at all while you were in charge?
We met them at various times. They would come to visit, and they'd be around, and we tried to create an environment that was really welcoming, so that when families were in town, they were allowed to be around and be everywhere and get to know the other teammates and stuff. And so we did meet over the years, but it's tough. I mean, when families come into town, they want to spend time with the guys they miss a lot. So Yeah, we would run into them at the rink and run into them at games and different things, and we got to know them a little bit. Not very well, but a little bit.
When you say you had to prove yourselves to them, and of course, as a first-time management team, I think of that ad hoc, impromptu flight to Stockholm from the draft in Montreal to woo or court them before free agency started. Did they ask you tough questions there, Mike? Like, was that where they put you and Lawrence through the ringer about what type of team you intended to build?
They did, but they were always extremely respectful and understood how difficult it was to acquire really good players and to build a championship level team. But they were certainly, they had seen some of it where we were trying to go, and we laid out where we thought we could go in terms of off ice, maximizing opportunities, maximizing players' abilities, being committed to spending to the cap every year, in addition to spending money outside of just cap expenditures, committed to having the best doctors, the best trainers, wherever we could find something that could improve their play, we were going to try and do it. And that was the key message, I think, that helped, prove to them that we weren't just talking, we were actually believed in it, and we were trying to do things that sometimes people didn't quite understand. But, at the end of the day, both the Twins, Roberto, lots of players on that team had career seasons as we tried to build things off the ice that were both cultural and also, enhancement of their opportunities and their ability.
Why do you think it took so long for everybody to realize that Burrows would be their perfect triplet?
Well, it took us a while too, because everyone, Anson Carter had that big season with the Twins, and everyone thought that they had to play with a right-handed shot player who would bring some physical play to every shift. And we started talking to them about what they believed was the best complement for them. I mean, these are two guys that, played a style of game that I don't think we may never see again, just because of them being twins and playing their entire lives together and how they viewed the game. We might not ever see that level again. But when we went to them and asked them the type of player that they thought would be complementary, what they wanted was a player with intelligence. They wanted a player that had a high hockey IQ, that could retrieve pucks, play positionally really well, and finish. And, in looking at our roster, we tried with Steve Bernier, who kind of fit that Anson Carter mold, didn't work very well. We landed on Alex because we wanted him to get more ice time. We felt that he was moving up the food chain with the roster, and they really liked playing with him because he brought a level of intensity, particularly in the offensive zone, where he took a lot of attention away from them in certain ways and allowed them a little more freedom, a little more ice to do some of the great things they did, and he could finish, he could score goals. So turned out that he was just a great compliment to those two.
What about with Roberto? I saw he was quoted as saying, he wish he knew then what he knows now, just about handling himself in the market, in the spotlight, as he came into his own as, a truly elite goaltender. Lots of twists and turns in Roberto's time as a Vancouver Canuck. But when you look back, how would you summarize what he was able to accomplish on the ice?
I think on the ice, he was the consummate professional. He worked so hard. He, had huge intelligence around the position, always seeking out, the best of the best. He had really good coaches, but you have to work hard, and you have to embrace going out there every day and putting in the time and the effort and the repetitions over and over and over. And he was happy doing that. He brought that to the rink every day. He was really competitive in every situation, every practice, extraordinarily competitive. And, again, we thought enough of him in that position to make that move, naming him captain, because he was a leader and he did bring that every day to the rink. And, of course we got widely criticized for that, but he was the right guy. He was the right character. And it did weigh on him because he cared so much about his teammates. And, it was tougher on him than we anticipated. And that's why we had to review it at the end of that season.
Did you guys ever have to talk to him about the emotions and the emotional swings that he was going through? Can you take us into some of those conversations?
No, because I think that those things should remain. The teams are teams, and there are things that are just for teams. But we did recognize, he put so much pressure on himself occasionally, particularly in playoffs. And as you guys know as well as anybody, the playoffs are just a grind in the National Hockey League. And as you get more physically and emotionally and mentally tired, it can challenge people in very different ways. And Roberto put tremendous pressure on himself to be the best goalie, to be a champion player. And we began to recognize that sometimes that pressure weighed on him. And we tried to do things over the course of our time there to alleviate that and to try and build some tools that could help him continue to maintain the edge that he had and maintain his energy levels. And, everyone tried, because he's just that type of guy where he just, took a lot of things on personally and by himself. And we were all trying to make sure that he was in the best environment he could possibly be in.
Well documented that he built his base with Francois Allaire and then Ian Clark, and then along comes you guys and Rolly Melanson, and you ask him to make some pretty significant changes in the way that he played out there. Now, when I think Roberto Luongo, I think that's a number one goaltender, and why would he change what had gotten him to such level of success? Can you take us through the changes that were implemented under the tutelage of Rolly Melanson, but more importantly, Roberto's reception to all that, Mike, because he could have very well fought you on that, and he seemed a very willing student.
Well, I think it's, there's a lot of levels to that. Rolly was a great goalie coach, a great communicator, really hardworking. And so when players see a coach that works so hard at their craft and cares so much about them being better, they usually respond pretty well to that. And I think Roberto did. The thing that Rolly brought was this recognition of the change in the position that was happening. And he could articulate it in a way that it made sense to goalies. It made sense to play a certain way, and at times, it was completely counter to the way I grew up playing and how goalies played, staying in the blue paint, really being patient. It wasn't a huge transformation. It was just a mindset, and Roberto adopted to it extremely well, and he worked hard at it, and he got the results. And so, there was a lot of levels in there that led to the results, but I think he was very confident in Rolly's ability and how hard Rolly worked at his craft to, have confidence that he was doing the right thing.
He had asked for a trade. It took a while before he finally was traded. What was he like during that period, Mike?
Well, it was challenging for all of us. And, it isn't easy to trade one of the best goalies in the league at any time. And we, in hindsight, I think we all would have done things a little differently. I know I would have for sure, but, we were trying our hardest to do what was right for Roberto, who we had tremendous respect for, do what was right for the team, do what was right for the rest of his teammates. And there's a lot of moving parts in there. And, unfortunately, there were times where we were, I guess misled might be a strong word, but different teams were trying to do different things. And it was apparent to us what was going on. And balancing all of that stuff out, I wish we could have traded him earlier and gotten a return that, we got a pretty good return at the end of the day for a guy who was a great goalie. But, it's really challenging trading goaltenders in the National Hockey League because of lots of reasons, cap space, proper fit, all sorts of different things. And, I wish we could have done it earlier for the sake of our team and everyone involved, but we couldn't because of the circumstances. And, again, maybe do things a little bit differently if it was another time around.
All three were players while you were a manager, and now all three have moved on into management roles with their respective teams. Do you hope that even a little bit of you rubbed off on those guys in front office capacities?
Well, I'm not sure. I think we tried to create an environment where the players knew we were going to try and do everything possible to make them better players, to give them every opportunity to be the best players they could be. And I think if that part has rubbed off and there was any learning that came out of that, I think that's beneficial, because I still don't think there's a lot of teams that approach it that way. But listen, those guys were really good people, are really good people. Sorry, I don't want to refer to them in the past tense, but when they were players on the team, they were exceptional people and leaders in the community, and they truly cared about the team, their teammates, coaches, families. Like they wanted to be a tight-knit group, and they created an environment where that existed. And whatever things we added to that are minor in comparison to the way they adopted new ideas and new things, and the way they applied them, and how they ran that dressing room was exceptional. Like we didn't have real internal problems that we had to worry about daily. We included them in meetings. We asked their opinions about things. They readily gave us their opinions about how we were doing things. So I think at the end of the day, they trusted us to be part of the solution and be part of the process, as opposed to being told what to do and putting demands on them. They were lockstep every step of the way in where we were trying to go. And I think it was one of the reasons the team was as competitive as it was.
Last question here, Mike, but we often hear about championship teams and they have a bond that can never be broken, and they do reunion parties and all of that. Of course, you guys got 60 minutes from a championship. 11 years later, how would you assess the bond and the connection between that 2011 team?
I think it was really tight. Clearly things ended in a way that none of us were very happy about, and then changes began to occur, and different things that were beyond our control were happening. And I think we all realized that I know I did, that we had to move in a different direction from that team if we were going to be successful again. And that was the intent. It didn't happen that way, but we understood that was a point in time where we got the absolute best out of everybody. And I don't think we could look back and pick out any particular player that disappointed us. Like they worked hard. They tried everything. They were competitive. They were dedicated. But there comes a point in time where it's just attrition. You have to move on from really good things. And I know those guys have stayed tight. When we saw them at the Sedins retirement, that was a really tight group of people.
Appreciate your time here, Mike. Thanks for this.
Okay, Jeff, Matt, thank you.